Good morning. This is Campbell McCreary, Amvest Capital, New York City. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Gold Bull Resources. Gold Bull trades on the venture as GBRC and as GBRCF on the OTCQB. Hope you'll enjoy today's program. It'll be available on-demand replay in about an hour. You can readily get it at amvestcapital.com/replays, an hour after we wrap up. Please, your questions are definitely encouraged to be sent in. Find your way to the question pane, and we'll ask them in real time. Amvest Capital is a New York-based specialist investment management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource sector. Please, very important, this call is for informational purposes only. Please read this carefully. Very pleased today to have with us Cherie Leedon, giving you presenting privileges. And turn on your webcam, please. She's president, CEO, and director of Gold Bull, and a geologist by background and a proven resources executive, working 10 years at public company board level. She's led businesses in senior positions at publicly traded companies, as well as developed and built several successful resource-focused startups. She's held leadership positions with Battery Minerals, Rio Tinto, Lionor, and Strike Resources. Again, please send in your questions, and we'll ask them after her presentation. And Cherie, if you want to turn on your webcam, we'll there we go. See you on the other side.
Good morning, Campbell.
Good morning.
Just trying to, can you see my screen just fine?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Welcome to Gold Bull, less than a year old, and we've achieved quite a lot in the last year since creating Gold Bull Resources, which is focused on exploring and advancing gold projects located in Nevada. Our share price is around 50 cents at the moment, giving us a market cap of just over 30 million Canadian. We've got 3 million in the bank, which is enough to fulfill the work programs that I'll be discussing in this presentation. We have a mission to evolve into a mid-tier gold company, and we intend to get there via a combination of additional acquisitions and also exploration success. I'm more focused on the acquisition side of things, and we have an amazing exploration team that are focused on adding ounces for our existing assets. Our value is really underpinned by the fact that we've got almost 500,000 ounces at our Sandman Project. And you just do the numbers there. So that's almost $1 billion of contained gold sitting at Sandman. So our team is very much focused on the Sandman asset. It's an amazing project that we purchased from Newmont in December last year. And we hit the ground running and have been drilling it essentially ever since. We're listed on the TSX and OTC, as Campbell mentioned, and we're also in Frankfurt. And we've got a team of hands-on mine finders. I'm based in Nevada, where our projects are located. Our core values are really what drive our board and our management team. And these are some of our values that we feel very strongly about. ESG is really at the front and foremost of whatever we're doing when it comes to exploration and development. A few of my team members, Craig Parry, he's just had some serious successes lately, and a wonderful geologist and chairman to Gold Bull Resources. And Craig and I go back to working at Rio Tinto almost 20 years ago. And David Johnson, our VP of Exploration. What makes David a little unique is that he is a geophysicist, and we really feel that the next round of world-class discoveries in Nevada are going to be born from undercover hidden deposits, and that's where geophysics is just going to play such a vital role, because geology and geochem really can't detect undercover as well as the geophysics can. David, the three of us here are actually Australians. It's a bit of an Australian invasion in Gold Bull Resources, and we've recently appointed Regina Malloy, another Aussie, as our exploration manager. Regina's relocating to Nevada to lead our geology team, and we think we do things a little differently, and we think that difference in Nevada is going to make a big difference. In Australia, we're used to dealing with cover. In fact, the majority of deposits in Australia were discovered undercover, whereas in Nevada, the most of the deposits in known mines have been sticking out of the ground. So we're looking for the areas that could contain world-class projects undercover, and we're going to apply our Australian exploration strategy to doing that in Gold Bull. Walter Coles is also one of our awesome directors, and he's obviously enjoying great success in Skeena, and just a real role model with respect to what Gold Bull wants to achieve. We're further supported by these wonderful advisors and directors, some real industry veterans here. We've got hundreds of years of experience in our board and advisory team. And one of the reasons why I love working in Nevada is you have these amazing advisors with 30, 40 years experience, often ex-Newmont, ex-Barrick, that are available and really willing to impart their knowledge and their experience of the state to our team. So the Sandman property, this is our current focus. It's where about 90% of our funds are being spent at the moment. We've recently concluded a 3,500 metre RC drill program. That was phase 1. And a phase 2 drill program is commencing this week. We just announced the rig is mobilising back to site as we speak. And another 5,000 metres of drilling to follow up on the success of the first 3,500 metre program. Location-wise, Sandman is near the mining hub of Winnemucca in the middle of Nevada. It's located along strike and in very similar geology to the Sleeper deposit, which historically was a multi-million ounce deposit of very high-grade gold. And we're looking for another Sleeper at Sandman. Although there's already the circa 500,000 ounces there, we're really interested in exploring those undercover areas because the majority of our project is, once again, undercover. And the previous explorers and Americans did a great job of exploring the outcrop. However, outcrop is probably only about 30% of that license, and around 70% is covered by cover. So that's what I'm more interested in. And the 500,000 ounces is really just, there's no downsize when you have 500,000 ounces sitting at the surface already. This is a summary of our tenure. Quite importantly, that polygon is covered under what's called a plan of operation. That means everything inside that polygon has already been comprehensively environmentally surveyed. Newmont did a wonderful job of conducting the biological surveys, the cultural surveys, spent millions of dollars getting all that right and done at the highest levels. And we've inherited that wonderful plan of operation. And that's the reason why day one, when the plan of operation was transferred from Newmont's name to our name, we were able to hit the ground running. The next day we had the dozer on site, and we've been drilling sporadically on and off ever since, with one short break in between. Those yellow holes are the drill holes that we have already completed, and those orange dots are the drill holes that we intend to complete. They're the holes that we intend to complete over the next 6 months. And you can see the resource polygons. Our known 4 resources are those red polygons: Able Knoll, Southeast Pediment, Silica Ridge, and North Hill. You can see the bulk of our drilling is really focused in that area to the north between North Hill and Silica Ridge. And that's the area where we believe that we're going to have the most success based on our preliminary geophysics. We've already surveyed that zone with 3D IP, which is a geophysical technique that essentially x-rays the earth looking for resistivity contrast. And we have a correlation between the known gold mineralization and that area in between is looking very similar based on geophysics. So there's always only one way to tell if the geophysics is getting it right or not, and that is to drill it. And that's why we've proposed all those little orange dots, which represent the RC drill holes. We've got a number of targets that were born out of geophysics, a few also out of geochemistry. And in addition to these holes, we're also conducting additional geophysical surveys, really focused on the resistivity side of things, such as CSAMT and 3D IP. And it's probably going to stem from more drill holes following those surveys, which will be conducted in the summer. So this round 2 of drilling is by no means the end of exploration at Sandman. It's really just the beginning because the detailed geophysics is quite limited at the moment. And where we have done the geophysics between North Hill and Silica Ridge has really highlighted a really interesting area that's over 3 kilometres long. So these next few slides will summarise some of the spectacular intersections we have announced following on from phase 1 drill program. This first hole at Able Knoll was really quite spectacular. some very high grade intersections, and long, broad, what we call lower grade, it's not that low, at 1 to 3 gram a ton gold intersections. Importantly, this extended the resource at Able Knoll, and it also illustrated that the majority of what we were calling fresh was actually oxidized. We took a conservative approach in our resource model because we weren't 100% sure based on the historical logs if this mineralization was oxidized or fresh, and it turns out it is actually oxidized, and that was quite apparent in our drilling. So that's great news for a future report, for future 43-101 amendment, because oxidized material is generally more amenable and cheaper to extract the gold from the rock. North Hill, more spectacular numbers from North Hill. At all these areas in the past, the target was more a large scale, low grade, 0.5 to 1 gram a ton heap leach material. And there's been very little exploration looking for the high grade source of that mineralization. For example, at North Hill, no one has ever tried to explore deeper looking for the source of the gold. So this one was just a real no-brainer. So we decided to put a few holes here for 2 reasons. 1, exploration, looking for that source, and 2, to increase our resource confidence. So, for example, to move inferred up to indicated so it can be included in our feasibility study, which is likely to occur next year. And it's certainly achieved those objectives. We've got some amazing intersections, such as the 13.7 meters at 11 grams a ton. But during the receipt of our assay results over the last month or 2, we started to see some red flags in our laboratory technique, because we submit a number of quality control samples and also duplicates. And a duplicate is basically, we have one sample, we halve it, and the lab gives us a number, and those numbers should match. So we had the predicament where this sample was 0.5 gram a ton and this sample was 5 grams a ton. And obviously that's a massive dilemma, which is right. So it spurred a real investigation into our laboratory technique, and we engaged independent geochemical experts to work out what was going on. And that same intersection, that same 14 meters at 11 grams a ton by a conventional laboratory technique was giving us 11 grams a ton. Our revised laboratory technique for that same interval is giving us 19.76 grams a ton. So we discovered we had a problem in that we have coarse gold in our deposit. And it's a problem when it comes to conventional lab techniques that aren't really anticipating nuggets to be in our samples. So as a result, over the last couple of months, we've evolved our laboratory technique so we're not underreporting our gold. And as a result, where we have high-grade, coarse, nuggety gold, it's likely to reflect in a bit of an increase. Our samples to date are depicted in this graph, showing the 2 different techniques, the conventional technique and the revised technique, which is tailored to high-grade gold to ensure that it's not being missed. And you can see, in general, there's a biased upwards trend. So it's quite significant, if we can have samples such as this intersection go from 11 grams to almost 20 grams a ton. It's obviously has a material impact. So we are now using this revised technique for all of our samples, I believe, over 0.1 grams a ton. And when we have more data, we'll certainly be sharing that with the market. At the moment, a lot of our samples that were already analysed are actually going back for reanalysis to make sure we're not underreporting our gold grades. And this is not unique to our deposit. It's you come across this laboratory technique issue on any high-grade coarse gold deposits. According to our geochemists, other deposits such as Newfoundland's Keats project had the same issue, and Novo Gold. So it's an issue until you know it's an issue, and then you change your laboratory technique to account for that coarse gold. This is a snapshot of our existing resources at Sandman, which is spread over those 4 deposits, and additional information on this is available in this appendix, available on our website, and also in the 43-101 that we announced a few months ago. So Sandman's really exciting. It's where we're targeting another sleeper. That's the goal, and we're also, in addition to targeting this for another sleeper style deposit, we're also doing some resource extension drilling on those known 4 deposits. In the next 5,000 meters drill program, something like 70% of our drill holes are exploration holes where there's never been drilling before, and about 30% are resource extension, building and ever incrementally increasing our known resources. We also have a second project called Big Balls. Big Balls is a project that it's not getting our full attention because our focus is on adding ounces at Sandman. However, the more time we spend at Big Balls, the more interesting it gets, and it's certainly going to be drilled by Bull Resources. Ideally this year, I'd like to have a drill rig there late Q3 or early Q4 after our Sandman drilling completes. A little bit about Big Balls. So Big Balls is a completely undercover target. And it's just mind-boggling that this target was available to stake. It's located on the junction of the Carlin Trend and the Bida Trend. So there's so much gold located in these gold trends, and to have two massive structural intersections open and available to stake in a place like Nevada, amazing. So Big Balls was originally a geophysical target. We've based our targets on a combination of magnetics and gravity. Recently conducted an additional detailed magnetic survey there ourselves. And importantly, it's located adjacent, about 10 kilometres along strike along the Bida Trend of Bald Mountain Mine, which is an operating Kinross asset. And it's a very interesting area of geology based on the limited knowledge we have in that corridor based on a couple of old oil wells. We appear to have very similar prospective geology in this basin between the two ranges. Bald Mountain has more than 5,000 drill holes in a mountain. Then we go under this valley, this pediment, where there's cover and no rock sticking on the ground, and we have no drill holes in our area. So if this was Australia, this would be Swiss cheese, and there would be thousands of drill holes in this valley, but there's a bit of cover and there's been no drill holes. So really looking forward to the next phase here, which will be some geochemical drill holes. Will be wide space, cheap drilling, something like a kilometre or a mile by a mile, because we're looking for elephants in elephant country. So if we're not going to get it in one to 1 mile radiuses, then it's too small for us to really be of interest. So that's one to watch that our team is quite excited about, and one that we'll be testing after the Sandman drill program. So we've got two excellent assets in Sandman and in Big Balls. We've got a lot of drilling plans. We're keeping the market fully informed by regular announcements of our drilling success and assay results. My apologies that there's been a little delay recently for the assays, but that was to do with that Coarse Gold issue that we were resolving with the laboratory. We really wanted to nut that out before we announced to the market our new procedure for our lab analysis, because it's just so vital that we have precision when it comes to our laboratory techniques. We're all on the same page as our investors. We participate on the same terms. We've got to skin the game. Our team is not the highest paid in the industry, but we are motivated by options and warrants, and we're all aligned to make Gold Bull a success and to find some significant ounces. This year, 2021, is all about adding ounces for us at Gold Bull. You can expect more drilling, and next year we'll start contemplating feasibility studies, especially for Sandman, where we already have more than $20 million worth of data on that asset. In fact, on that note, it's just crazy that no previous company at Sandman had ever compiled all of the data into one data set. So Newmont did a great job of doing their data, but they hadn't done all the data entry of the previous explorers in the 80s and 90s. And the fact that we've been doing that over the 6 months, it really creates number punching. We've sent a whole bunch of data entry for manual data punching, and every hole that's added, I mean, that's another $20,000 that we're not spending on because of that data capture. So that process is still ongoing, and will be the first 3D compilation of all the data on Sandman. And I do anticipate that that is likely to create some targets in itself. Trying to stop my share, guys.
Oh, keep it up.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so we might. So someone just could go into a little more detail about stock ownership, insiders, strategic investors, partners. Further paint us the picture there. That would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So our last capital raise of circa 30 million Canadian was in November, December last year. It was led by Tectonic and Canaccord, and we welcome Luxor as a cornerstone investor, and the Flannery family out of Australia, Terra Capital also out of Sydney, and a number of high net worth individuals. Insider ownership is probably around 35%, and with Craig Parry, myself, and Mike Connett, our advisor, being major shareholders and participating in each capital raise. Most of our directors and our team have also participated in the capital raises. Of that cash, the majority went out the door on day one to purchase the Sandman asset and to bond that asset.
Excellent. Will your drilling be diamond or RC at Sandman?
At the moment, we're doing RC. We're getting the most bang for our buck doing RC. And pre-development will certainly require a few more diamond holes there. The beauty of inheriting Newmont's database is that essentially all their holes were diamond. So we inherited almost 300 PQ diamond holes. We've got all the photos, all the data for all those diamond holes. So the existing resources have had their fair share of diamond holes already. So there's no need for us to do additional diamond holes in those areas. And in our newer targets, we most certainly will require some diamond. That I'm guessing that will probably be next year.
Is the Coyote project still in your portfolio, and what future plans do you have for Coyote?
Unfortunately, Coyote did not make the cut. We were very excited by the surface numbers we got. Based on geochem, it looked really interesting. However, then we conducted a geophysical survey, 3D IP once again, and the geophysics indicated that the system was quite skinny and narrow. So we saw the potential for around 100, 200,000 ounces, which just wasn't enough for us to invest in a drill program. We're looking for world-class projects with a multi-million ounce scale. So we decided to invest those drilling meters into Sandman and Big Balls instead of Coyote, and we relinquished our interest in that asset.
Is Exploration Gold Project, what is the Exploration Gold Project potential for production status? I guess, when do you think you might get to a production decision or start thinking about?
Yeah, so next year the plan is to commence the feasibility study at Sandman. The timeline for any project in Nevada is you require 1 year of baseline monitoring, such as water quality monitoring. You require 4 quarters, which is done over 1 year. After that, you can submit an EA or an EIS, which is essentially the environmental approval to create your mine. And an EA takes about 6 months, and an EIS takes about 12 months for approval. And then you're basically in a position to commence construction. So, from start to finish, it's about a 2-year process for the approvals. And then construction typically about 1 year. So that's just general terms in Nevada is the timeframes that you're looking at.
Is your scope of geographic interest on more properties just on Nevada or elsewhere in Western US?
I'd say it's probably 80% focused on Nevada. However, we're also open to mining-friendly jurisdictions such as Utah and Arizona. Our hub is based in Nevada, and we feel like there's so much opportunity undercover in this state. It's a mining-friendly jurisdiction, so it's certainly our focus, but we don't say no to appraising other assets if they're in mining-friendly hubs. There's some states that we just would not touch, probably everything west of Nevada. But we're also, right now my team's even considering something in Canada, for example. So if it's a mining-friendly jurisdiction, we're open to appraising it.
And how often are you able to get to site? Where are you located?
I get to site probably about once a month. When we're actively drilling, I try and get there more often than that. Our drill program is located 3 hours from where I live, so it's just essentially down the road. So if we stay in Winnemucca, we've got an apartment in Winnemucca. Go there for a night or two to spend some time with our team. Our exploration VP is on his way there right now. He's going to be based in Winnemucca for quite a lot of the summertime during our drill program.
Excellent, thank you. I'll pass it over to Stu.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Sri. So it sounds like that Coarse Gold was unexpected due to do other projects in the area exhibit that type of quality, or?
Sleeper most certainly did. Sleeper certainly had a lot of Coarse Gold. So that's probably like the nearest comparable. We also, a lot of the previous drilling did not analyze, with Coarse Gold in mind. So the back of my mind, I'm wondering whether there's a potential resource increase possible there. Right now, we just don't have a big enough sample representation to be able to make that call right now. Newmont actually did analyze for Coarse Gold, so they got it right. And we basically will be following a very similar protocol to what Newmont was doing for their limited drilling on the project. But the bulk of the holes, there's almost 2,000 holes that we're not analysing with Coarse Gold in mind. And the deposit's not all Coarse Gold. So again, guessing it's probably like 20% Coarse Gold or something like that. So you're still going to be getting the standard fraction of gold accurately represented as the Coarse Gold that is the labs was having some fun and games with, because Coarse Gold, just the nature of it, it's heavy. It settles to the bottom of the bag or bottom of the envelope. So often like the Coarse Gold sitting at the bottom of the sample, and what gets analysed scooped off the top, and you miss the coarse. So we've rectified that now, and in the next couple of months, we'll have a lot more samples that have been reanalyzed by both the conventional method and the Coarse Gold method. So then we'll really be able to compare and contrast rather than talk about the 30 comparables that we have in our announcement. We should have like 300, in the next time we catch up, just to see what that bias is looking like.
Yeah, fair enough. And then do you have more, I know you've relied a lot on IP surveys to help define drill targets. Do you have more IP surveys planned for this year, or are you going to wait until after the current 5,000 meter drill program?
Yes, we absolutely do have more IP surveys planned. So where we have already completed the 3D IP survey between Silica Ridge and North Hill. So can you guys still see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, so we've already completed up in this area between North Hill and Silica Ridge, and that's where we're drilling. And we've got more surveys, geophysical surveys planned down here, and that's where we believe more drill holes will stem. So that's why we don't have a lot of drill holes in this area, and that's because we have not yet done our geophysics. I'd say the sole reason why you see the cluster of holes here is we've already done the geophysics there, and geophysics is our step one. Before we drill, we'd like to do the geophysics. And as I mentioned before, we're still data entering, like doing literally manual data entry of holes done in the 80s and 90s. So we also don't want to drill down here if there's already been holes done down here, and we're almost finished that data entry. So after that's compiled, we'll have this amazing 3D database, probably $30 million worth of data that we can swivel around and leapfrog and work out exactly the optimum positions for those holes based on combo of the historical drilling and also the 3D IP. And we'll also be doing a lot more CS-AMT, which is basically the resistivity component, and because the resistivity is certainly what's driving most of this current drill program, and it's a lot cheaper than the 3D IP data.
Gotcha. And then when do you expect the 3D database to be kind of completed? Sounds like it'll be like a huge benefit for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. So it's already completed to the north, and it'll be the groundwork will be done over a couple of months during the summer months in the south, and that should enable us to be in a position to drill based on those targets by around September, October.
Yeah. And then how deep are you going to drill in the current 5,000 meter program? Because I know, the drilling from a couple of months ago, like 150 meter intersection.
Yeah, it was going to vary from about 100 meters to about 300 meters. I think we've got a great RC rig, but it starts struggling after about 350 meters. So the average depth of hole, I'm guessing, will be about 200 meters. There's a lot of drilling data on the clustered around the known resources between 0 and 100 meters. However, the vast majority of historical drilling has been less than 100 meters. So even around the known deposits, we think if we go that 100 to 200 meters, there's a real opportunity to add some ounces there at depth. And most of this drilling, again, was done in the 80s and 90s, and it's these when the gold price went to around $350. So, back then it didn't make sense to go beyond 100 meters, but at today's gold price of $1,900, it certainly really opens up extending those resources down past 200 meters.
Yeah. makes sense. Well, thanks for that. I'll pass on to Adam.
Thanks, Stu. Sherry, can you just walk us through the geology of Sandman as you currently understand it, and what you guys have sort of discovered since you guys took over the property?
Yeah, sure. So we have 4 known resources, those ones that are labelled on the screen. And the top 3 are quite similar. They're volcanic hosted mineralization, sequence of volcanic rocks that have basically soaked up the gold. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a conducive layer, whether it's a lithological trap or a structural trap, or quite often the combination of the two. And at those 3 deposits, we've got that. Able Knoll is very different. Able Knoll is a mineralized breccia. So you've had like this pipe, this intrusion explode, and it's loaded with gold, like these kind of numbers. And often this occurs at like a boundary of a water table, or there might have been a lake layer or something like that historically. So it's got us speculating, are there Able Knoll style breccia pipes that are feeding North Hill, Silica Ridge, Southeast Pediment? Have they been missed because the explorers went so shallow? And that's kind of where our exploration heads at the moment. We've got some really interesting geophysical anomalies here, and we're wondering if those circular anomalies represent potential breccias like Able Knoll. Able Knoll is carrying the goodies. It's got great grade. So, and it's also the most comparable to the sleeper deposit. So we're in the process of having an exploration strategic session. We've engaged all of our team, and then we've got independent experts such as Randy Vance, Keith Wood, John Wood. John Wood was involved with the discovery of Sleeper. I think he basically discovered the Sleeper deposit. So we're going to have these industry veterans and experts with various backgrounds sit with our team for 3 days in Winnemucca, go check out the rocks, go check out Sleeper, go check out our project, and work out where is another Sleeper hiding in this area. I mean, we've got all the key ingredients. We've got the right rocks. We've obviously got the gold. It's been a very fertile system. So now it's about looking for where that has been missed undercover. So our geological model is evolving. We had a consultant called Simon Meldrum on site a few weeks ago, another guru who's based overseas and is just an epithermal expert. And he was checking out Able Knoll and just wondering whether Southeast Pediment was also intrusive related. So the breccias and intrusives have never really been the focus of this project, and I think they're probably going to become a focus for us over the entire state when you consider the potential mineralization that is linked to these intrusive bodies or these breccia bodies.
Do you guys have or have access to all the geophysics that were done between North Hill and Sleeper?
We have some under our CA with Newmont. So there's been a bit of work done between North Hill and Sleeper. There hasn't been a lot of work done in that area. For the most part, it's sand dunes. There's been a couple of sporadic drill programs, but what data is there, we certainly do possess.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And of course, so Newmont was doing work on this after they had acquired Frontier. Is that when they had continued doing that work? Yes,
exactly. At one point they were considering essentially extracting the known gold resources. They inherited this resource, and they were contemplating a trucking operation from Sandman to their Twin Creeks Turquoise Ridge processing facility. So we do have quite a lot of detailed data, unusual data for a major to focus on 500,000 ounces. So we've got a lot of metallurgical work where they took bulk samples from Southeast Pediment, and they processed it at that Twin Creeks facility to work out what the recoveries are. And in fact, our 43-101 report actually draws on those actual recoveries. So there's a lot less assumptions and more facts in our 43-101 report due to that immense level of detail of what was conducted. And for whatever reason, this project did not make the cut for the Nevada Gold Mines Barrick joint venture, and a line was drawn in between the sand, somewhere between Sleeper, Turquoise Ridge and Twin Creek. So this fell out of the Nevada Gold Mines joint venture, which enabled us to purchase it from Newmont directly.
Sure. Have you taken a look at Newmont's model and just of the bulk sample to see how well it it matched up with the actual results?
Yes, very well. I mean, their recoveries are up to around 90%, and the metallurgical work we have is all quite favourable. So we don't have much work on Able Knoll though, because that's the only deposit that is not sticking out of the ground. In fact, Able Knoll is what I keep really drumming into our team. So for 30 years, you had geologists. The main access road is like this. So for 30 years, you had geologists drive over Able Knoll to get to Southeast Pediment, Silica Ridge, and North Hill. And this was only discovered, I believe, in 2006. So the fact that this is discovered 2006 after you've had geologists driving over it every single day for 30 years, for me, just is quite inspiring that there could be much bigger things in Able Knoll that people have just been driving over due to a bit of sand cover. And Able Knoll, you can see like it's about 30 meters of cover here, and you've got this fantastic resource that's going at these kind of numbers, 140 meters at 3 grams a ton that geos have been driving over. So I think I got a little bit sidetracked there, but yes, the metallurgical work does look great. And during our next year, during our feasibility study, we'll be contemplating a number of options. We'll be looking at putting a central facility in there where we feed our 4 deposits to our facility. We'll be looking at trucking it to a neighbouring toll treatment facility, but we haven't commenced that yet because you really need to know the size of your resource. If we were to do that now at 500,000 ounces, and then for argument's sake, we get to 1 million ounces by the end of this year, all the presumptions on infrastructure would not apply. So this year, adding ounces. Next year, let's look at feasibility studies and work out how we extract value out of these ounces.
And just for clarification, Able Knoll is as far as you guys can tell, is a heap leachable oxide?
As far as we can tell, however, we have not done the bottle roll test work on Able Knoll yet. It is oxidized, so I'd be surprised if it is not heap leachable. However, that certainly needs more investigation and more and bottle roll test work, which has not yet commenced. You can see we're holding off on the Able Knoll drilling, additional drilling, until we've done our 3D IP over there. We're also interested to see whether there are other Able Knolls in that area. It's all undercover, but from our drilling, we know that cover's pretty shallow. So that's going to be probably Q4 of this year. These yellow dots are our next program, which are more likely to be Q3.
Can you briefly just discuss the royalties that are on the property, or did I think Newmont held some of them. I don't know if Newmont canceled them before they sold them to you. Can you just give us an update on that? Yeah,
sure. So Newmont don't have any royalties. New Nevada does, which is the railroads company with the checkerboard. So this project area was previously held by about 10 different owners, and over the last 30 years it was consolidated, and Newmont did this great job of doing the plan of operation over the whole consolidated area. Because of its history of having multiple owners, the royalties are a bit like a checkerboard, so depending on the previous owner would depend on the royalty, and they're summarized succinctly in our 43-101. There's actually a map with color codes of the various royalties. So that they average around 2%. Many of them have buyouts, and they range from 0.5%, I think, to 4%, but the 4% is on an area that we don't actually have a resource to find. So I'd really encourage you to go to the 43-101, which is available on our website and also on CEDAR for a detailed breakdown of where those individual royalties actually occur.
And Sherry, just to switch topics back again, I guess, to the Coarse Gold. You guys probably suspected there was Coarse Gold. Newmont, I guess, knew there was Coarse Gold because they had adjusted their sampling procedure for Coarse Gold.
Yes, I presume so. I presume Newmont, probably did what we did. Had a one round where we had duplicates that didn't match, and then adapted it. So Newmont's analysis was pretty much spot on. The sample sizes were a lot bigger, and in Coarse Gold, that's one of the first things you have to do is increase your sample size that's sent to the laboratory for analysis. So yeah, I could only presume that Newmont did what we did and had duplicates come back that weren't a perfect match. So with the level of QA/QC, I think 1 in 10 samples of ours is a quality control sample. It's either a standard, a duplicate, or a blank. Those QA/QC samples are inserted there to pick this up early on, exactly as it has done. So it shows us that our QA/QC is working. Now we're working with our independent geochemists, the laboratory, and also our resource geologist, because our resource geologist has to have 100% confidence in our numbers and our laboratory numbers being real and actual. And if you get 0.5 gram or 5 grams, he needs the confidence to know which one of those is right. So we've invested a lot of time more so than money, in actually investigating this and rerunning things, and it's still ongoing at the laboratory, in fact, to make sure our duplicates are coming back as 3 grams and 3 grams, and not 0.5 gram and 5 grams, because that's a massive discrepancy, and it's something that we've taken very seriously, and we've engaged independent experts to get that right. So far it's looking like the analysis, the new analysis technique, which is very similar to Newmont's, will do the job.
Sherry, just a quick look at the graph here. My first impression is that I don't see necessarily a positive or negative bias in the sample results here. It just looks like the distribution is too wide, signaling the issue of coarse gold that you're speaking of. So you're seeming to imply that there's going to be a positive, or there was a negative bias to the assays because of the sampling, but it looks to me here like it's just the distribution is spread because of the coarse gold. That I'm not sure I see a bias in one direction or another.
Well, I guess about 2/3 of the samples plot above the line and about 1/3 below. So overall, that's quite a significant difference. It's not, if it was 50-50, then I would agree, but the fact we've got more plotting above the line is leading us to believe that there will be a slight positive bias. However, it's a very small sample size, so I'd like to see thousands of dots on this particular graph. So until we have the more samples, we can only comment from this. It appears to be a positive bias, and looking at when we plot all these numbers, it's certainly quite significant with respect to the underreporting versus the underreporting versus the overreporting. So, but I take your point, and you can't deny that there's a number of points that plot lower as well, but most of them are plotting above the line.
And do you have? I'm sorry. Do you have like a warehouse with the rejects from historic programs that you can rerun, or you can just rerun your own?
We can do both. So we are rerunning our own. They have not left the laboratory, so the lab has been custodians of those samples since the day they received them. In fact, we've got a big lab audit tomorrow. I'm going with my entire team to the laboratory tomorrow to go through the process and make sure every step is getting done perfectly, and that our samples are being treated for coarse gold. So I'll be able to report more tomorrow after our comprehensive lab tour, which will be several hours with our entire exploration management team. And the historical samples, we from Newmont, we inherited a massive warehouse of samples. It's huge. It was something like 30 truckloads of samples, and they go back Newmont and pre-Newmont, and most of them are in very good condition, like they're labeled. We've got a combination of core and RC chips. So we most certainly do have those samples to go back to for both this work, but probably even more valuable with those samples are going to be for our metallurgical work and our bottle roll test work to work out what our heap leach recoveries are and things like that. So they certainly do have a whole warehouse in Winnemucca of previous drilled samples.
Excellent. Thanks, Sharif. With that, I'll hand it over to Campbell if there's for additional questions.
Yeah, no. How many meter distance between holes in the area at Sandman?
Yeah, so that kind of depends on where we're looking. So for a scale bar, this is 3 miles, and this down here is 5 kilometers. Most of these holes about 100 meters apart. So we again, we're looking for significant intersections for the low grade, but in some areas, our target, I mean, the 6 meters at 10, 11 grams a ton, that's a pretty skinny target, and for that you'd need more closer space. So you can see around these North Hill areas, around the known resources, we've got closer clusters of about 50 meters spacing, and that's twofold: to chase those high grade stringers and also to improve our resource confidence, because this area, North Hill, is 100% oxide, silica rich, majority oxide too. So when I'm thinking about potential production scenarios, I'm really liking this area because of that oxide component and the fact it's sitting at the surface. We actually own a lot of the surface rights as well, so like the actual land as well as the mineral estate. So I'm thinking that just like that makes a lot of sense for us to start looking up there from a development forward thinking scenarios, and especially if we can link North Hill and Silica Ridge, it starts looking like a pretty interesting target.
Excellent, thank you. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and sure, it's always a pleasure to learn ever more about what the great things you're doing. And I'll pass it back to you for to close us, but do want to ask everyone to please share their feedback on their way out. You'll be queued for that, and Cherie and her team and Amvest would really appreciate it. So Cherie, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Campbell. We're really excited to be commencing phase 2 drill program this week sometime. We'll have plenty of news flow coming out. We'll be announcing in batches of assay results every couple of holes. And we really think that we've got some prime real estate at Sandman and Big Golds, not to mention the acquisition front that we're still actively pursuing. So I think it's a great story with a market cap of just over $30 million and that existing resource at Sandman to really underpin our valuation.
Great, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.